Jet fans, what's happening? Welcome to the next episode of Umbro and Tom O. It's about all the New York Jets knowledge you can get. I'm Mike. We've got Tom O to my left. I'm looking forward to getting started today. Tom, how are you?
Doing great. Happy to be here again, ready to talk some quarterbacks and some Jets.
100%. So with today's format, obviously, the Jets are going to have, at the very worst, the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Most likely going to get number 1. They're going to go quarterback. We talked last week about how Sam Darnold just needs a change of scenery if he has a chance of succeeding. So with that, Tom and I are real quick going to give us our top 5. But real quick, we'll just get right to it. Tom, we can both agree that Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 quarterback in this class, correct?
Without question.
100%. All right. So, listen, he's the number 1 overall pick regardless of whoever's picking. So, let's talk about some pros and cons here. And, Tom, I'm going to give you the floor. What do you like about Lawrence's game? What do you dislike?
I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he's the ideal quarterback, and I think that's why there's so much hype around him. I mean, you look at this quarterback or this quarterback class in general. I mean, it's really stacked and loaded. So when you're talking about someone being the absolute number 1, it's going to be the number 1 overall pick, almost no matter what. I think that kind of says miles itself. It's just for starters though. He's got so much experience. I mean, He's got the arm talent like you could not imagine. The guy throws the ball down the field better than almost anybody consistently. He can run around, he keeps the play alive. And what is he? He's 6'6", 220. I mean, he's got the height that you really want in the ideal NFL quarterback.
He's got that Justin Herbert type build.
Absolutely. And they kind of play similarly. I just think that a lot of that's actually a very good comparison, but I think that a lot of the way that Trevor Lawrence does it, just everything he's just a little bit better at. And that's just, not right now, Justin or he's been in the NFL for a bit, so he's, going to develop a little bit more. But in terms of Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's only going to get better. And, you want to start with this kind of blueprint with a quarterback.
I agree. And listen, everything you said is right on point. The man's got the prototypical size that you want. He's got great build. What impresses me the most about Trevor Lawrence is his middle of the field accuracy, his ability to get the ball out on time and into tight windows, which you don't always see in the college game. It's one thing I was kind of missing from Justin Herbert when he was coming out. The man can make a tight window throw, which is already something that's so unproven for many quarterbacks going into the pros. And I do think the man's just a proven winner. Obviously, he's got a lot of talent around him, but you can tell that he elevates the game of guys around him. He's not perfect by any means, but when experts everywhere are comparing the guy to John Elway or Peyton Manning, that type of stature, you know that as long as there's nothing crazy going on, around him, he's going to be a really good quarterback in the league for a long time. And I think that's the only way he doesn't succeed in the pros is if his situation around him is, kind of like the Jets of 2020.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I mean, you look at what he has on his team for, every year he started, he's had all these weapons, right? He's had, first round draft receivers coming out the past 2 years. Travis Etienne's been there with him the whole time. So I completely agree with you.
I agree too. And the other thing I like about Trevor Lawrence, and people aren't going to talk about this enough because he's so accurate, he's so good at so many facets. The man's battle tested. You watch that championship game against Ohio State, they did not make it easy on him whatsoever. It was probably outside of the LSU game the year after, that game against Ohio State, it wasn't his best game, but he elevated his play. He found a way to win. And it wasn't all with his arm. He ran for a TD. He's got some wheels. And evidently he just, he didn't let the adversity get to him. And he was able to come out and bring a championship to Clemson, which I think is just, I think that says more than the actual talent that he has, regardless of how good he already is. So I think whoever drafts him number 1 overall, whether it be the Jets most likely or even the Jaguars, you're getting a winner and a culture changer ultimately.
Absolutely.
So listen, we can love him, but everybody's got a flaw to their game, man. What do you not like about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really good question. And I think my first kind of weakness or something I don't like necessarily also kind of ties into one of his strengths. And I wanted to mention just one more because I know it's something I'm going to be talking about a lot, but it's really the anticipation when you're throwing the football of where the receivers
100%.
are going to be. I think he does that bar none better than almost any college football quarterback. The best in the NFL, just for perspective, is Aaron Rodgers. Before the receiver, breaks on the route, before their head turns, the ball's out of the hand, the ball's in the spot it needs to be. I think he does a really good job with that. But something I did notice, because I watched both the games you were talking about, the LSU and Ohio State. I also watched Alabama. And I noticed he does that, and it's such a great thing to do. But he does kind of sail the ball sometimes, almost like he's a little unsure of it when he's trying to anticipate it. Something that I just noticed, and it could tie into how strong his arm is as well, which is also such a positive. He does need to work on his pocket mobility a little bit. I think I see a lot of times he's when the pressure is getting to him, he's trying to back out of the pocket or get out of the pocket immediately, when sometimes it's just as simple as a step up. But again, that's something that they can fix in the NFL. It's really not the end of the world. And we touched upon this earlier as well. Really just the elite players he's been with. These are actual NFL players that are coming. It's not like just a random, college team and the NFL is always going to be better. No, these are receivers that are going to the NFL and having massive impacts.
Right.
It's hard to find weaknesses for the man, but I would say those are pretty much my big ones and probably my only as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I can definitely agree. Sometimes he does have a little bit of issues when it comes to pressure. 100% coachable, and sometimes a simple step up or a quick step right. And I think that's something you can learn a lot from watching a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest pocket maneuverers, for lack of a better word, of all time, or oh my goodness. He can maneuver well in the pocket. He does that really well. But the other thing I don't like about Lawrence sometimes, and this is also a positive, but sometimes you see it work in the college level, it's not going to fly in the pros. He loves throwing that 50-50 ball towards the boundary. Sometimes it's a little underthrown and it kind of just hangs up there for a while, but you believe in your guy, he's going to come down with it. But to me, it just happens a little too often for my liking. It's not always a confident, I'm going to lead my receiver down the field. It is 99% of the time on the run from what I've seen. So if he's running to his right or he's running to his left and he wants to really force that deep ball down there because he's got the one-on-one coverage and he believes in his guy, he's going to chuck it up. And I think that's something he's going to have to cut out at the next level. But again, totally coachable. And I think schematically, whoever he's with, fingers crossed, they find a way to work around that, i.e. New York, don't fuck this up.
Come on, Jets.
Come on, man. Just get the whole coaching hire right. But Trevor Lawrence, man, he's not going to be a product of what's around him overall. The team is going to be a product of Trevor Lawrence. He's the guy to me that can come in there from day one, elevate the play of certain guys. Now, granted, he's going to be a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. But I truly believe that over time, players around him will get better. He'll elevate the play of his receivers. He'll elevate the play of his offensive line. He'll learn to maneuver the pocket like we were just talking about. Now, if he stays coachable, right, and doesn't come in there thinking he's hot shit from day one, which sometimes quarterbacks do, then I think we're good. So, Tom, Trevor Lawrence, all consensus number 1 overall pick, no matter what. I'm going to break this. I'm going to throw a scenario at you because it's totally possible. The Jets beat New England week 17. Bill Belichick, with his ridiculous hatred-minded, like his hatred for the Jets, is it possible he throws the game? The answer is no, because quite frankly, like that's not going to happen. Let's not be unrealistic. But the Jets could potentially come out and beat the Patriots just by playing well. The Patriots aren't a good team, and not quite frankly, the Jets should have beat them the first time. So when you look at that, the Jets say win week 17. The Jaguars do get the number 1 pick due to strength of schedule at that point. So even if they both finish with a win, the Jaguars will get the number 1 pick and ultimately the right to Trevor Lawrence, while the Jets will sit at number 2. If this does happen, real quick, before we get into what they should do with the pick, they can go a multitude of ways. Tom, I want you to give me your top 5 quarterbacks after Trevor Lawrence, and I'm going to decide whether or not I agree on the order.
You're going to decide whether or not it's right or not.
Correct.
So I have, after Trevor Lawrence, I have number 2, I have Justin Fields. I have 3, Kyle Trask. 4, Trey Lance. 5, Zach Wilson. And 6, Mac Jones.
Okay, so I wholeheartly disagree with almost everything.
I knew you were. I already know who you have as your number 2.
So number 2 for me is Trey Lance, without question.
Oh, I
know. Number 3 for me is Justin Fields. Number 4, I like Zach Wilson. Number 5, I do like Mac Jones at number 5. And then number 6 for me is Kyle Trask. So we'll kind of break it down as to why. We'll start with, the consensus, right? And the order has been Lawrence, Fields, since they were back in high school. So we might as well start with Justin Fields, what we like and dislike about his game. Tom, what about Justin Fields makes him the second best in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to put a quick disclosure in there. All of these quarterbacks truly are good. We're really blessed with a really good quarterback class for the first time in a very, very long time where they're all actually this talented. But, for Justin Fields, for me, it came down to the fact that me putting him at 2, I almost felt like I had to at this point. Right. For one, I don't typically love Ohio State quarterbacks, but this guy has absolute elite mobility. He really, really can, move. He's twitchy. He's explosive. It's really, really nice. That doesn't just go outside the pocket. He does work the pocket well. He steps up, he simply slides out, and then he'll extend the play. So it's not, just running out of the pocket right away. I thought he has really, really good accuracy as well. He throws a nice ball. And when you watch the actual games, I actually watched the one Penn State versus Ohio State this season. Right. I know Penn State's not too great this year. I'm actually wearing a Penn State shirt right now. But, I did see that every team that plays him really has to respect the run, because if he takes off, he could seriously be gone at any moment. So right. You'll see every single play, there's a spy on him, whether it's, a safety rolling up or a linebacker. Every single play, they have to respect the run. And I think that you can really game plan around that as, an NFL team or an offense in general. I also loved, to get into a little bit more specifics, I loved his short balls between 5 to 15 yards. The guy throws dimes. He doesn't miss throws there. He really doesn't. And he gets rid of the ball extremely quickly. So you're running a quick in, quick dig route. He's getting the ball to you real quick. So,
okay. So all of that I can agree with. But, the thing is, to me, I watched Justin Fields. And listen, you and I can both agree it's very difficult to dismiss the Ohio State quarterback bias. We've seen Ohio State quarterbacks for years now come into the league and ultimately phase out. You look at Troy Smith, you look at, Dwayne Haskins now. I can't see another team really taking a chance on him. I really just don't think he's that good. I never thought he was that good. And quite frankly, I thought he was overdrafted. Braxton Miller ended up turning into receiver. Where is he now? Even at the receiver position. But I will agree in the sense that Justin Fields is better than all those guys. I think in terms as a runner and I think, you hit it on the head with his pocket mobility, and you hit it on the head when he was able to kind of maneuver the pocket a little bit and ultimately make a decent throw. He does have decent accuracy between the 5-15 yard mark and even on the run. What I don't like about Fields, though, and I really wanted to I wanted to see it. There's no zip on his ball, man. There just isn't. I don't see the arm strength that other people are seeing. Granted, it's a good arm. It's not a great arm. I don't like the fact that he's very seldom focused on his first read. And again, I think that's just because his first read is so wide open all the time. It's just hard not to give it to him. And again, granted, he can make plays, I really do. But like, people are comparing him to Dak Prescott. I see it. But Dak Prescott is such a product of what's around him, too. Excuse me. But it took him years to actually get to the elite level that he's in right now. I think you look at Dak now compared to the quarterback he was years ago when he first came onto the Cowboys, it's a totally different guy. I can see Justin Fields making that same trajectory. I just don't think it's going to happen like right away. I think he needs a year because the dude is simply a one-read rhythm passer to me who can run the ball. Kind of like how Lamar Jackson was coming out. It took Lamar Jackson a minute to get acclimated to the pro game. And even so you see now where when Lamar Jackson's offense is figured out, it's not that difficult to stop. I don't know what Greg Roman did to make them so explosive the past couple of weeks. But again, you make those adjustments and move on. Lamar Jackson's also not making a ton of plays with his arm. And I think as a quarterback – or as an NFL team, you have to look at the quarterback and decide ultimately if that's the type of identity you want, then you go with that guy. Do you really go with that guy at number 1 or 2 overall? I'm not sure. And that's just my take on that. I like Justin Fields. I'm not in love with him.
I completely agree with everything you said. I actually have zero disagreements. I would say the only thing that really stuck out to me was the Lamar Jackson and the Dak Prescott comparisons. I see where you get Dak Prescott. I think he's got a far better arm than Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's as effective as a runner in terms of his, lateral movement, his agility necessarily. But in terms of like Dak Prescott's mobility, I think that we're looking at Justin Fields running like a 4.43 in the combine. Like this guy can seriously move. But yeah, I have the exact same things. I think that he stares down receivers. He's not going through his progressions whatsoever. I mean, you see him every play, right. Maybe every once in a while on like a check down, but he's looking at his main receiver, and then he's checking the ball down if they're not open. Other than that, he's not going through any progressions whatsoever.
Right. Like Justin Fields to me. And I heard this term back when Michael Vick was like in his prime, like 2004 Michael Vick.
Yeah.
The term was, and I don't know why I remember this. It was from some NFL Network film, and they were talking about Michael Vick, and they were like, basically it was read 1, read 2, then do what you do, i.e. run that thing. Because if your first read or second read wasn't there, like don't even bother. Just fucking take off. Justin Fields screams that to me, and he doesn't have the arm remotely close to Michael Vick. I think Michael Vick could outthrow him now, and he's been out of the game for a while.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I think the best way to put it though is in terms of like the arm talent, the arm strength specifically. Like he definitely has the accuracy. I don't want to take that away from him. It also could be because he's staring down the same receiver for so long that it's easy to actually hit them when it's time to throw. But I do think that he throws a very nice, like I guess like a dart pass, like those quick, like I said, like get the ball quickly. He throws it very nice.
Exactly.
But he's not throwing a nice deep ball where it's really coming over the receiver's shoulders and it's landing in his, in the breadbasket. He's throwing a deep ball where the receiver actually has to go up and get it because it's more of a line drive. And I agree. I don't think that's elite arm strength. I think that just because he can throw the ball isn't going to get it done. Like those are going to be interceptions in the NFL.
Exactly.
If you're throwing down the field. Yeah.
100%. He's a quick rhythm passer. Like if you're going to draft him thinking that he's going to be able to start right away and win games for you, I think you're very sorely mistaken. And I think that about all of these quarterbacks, quite frankly, outside of Trevor Lawrence. But let's move on.
I do want to bring up one more thing in terms of these quarterbacks. I think that like a lot of them, the difference is like for Trevor Lawrence, his ceiling's so high, his floor is not that low. We know at the very least he's going to be average to above average, right? 100%. When you look at someone like Justin Fields, I don't think his ceiling is that high. I don't think his floor is that low either, but I think he's going to be an above average quarterback. I think it's my take.
If you don't turn over the ball, if you're Justin Fields, you're already, to me, exceeding expectations. I'm not sure if Jacksonville's the place for him. Like, I think if he goes to Jacksonville, it's going to be a bust. I think if he goes to the Jets, it'll be a bust. I think he needs to go to a team that's already built to succeed. I think if you look at Pittsburgh, or if you look at, say, Atlanta, who might be looking to move on from Matt Ryan in a year or two, which is actually the perfect scenario for him. It's a dome team. You have weapons. And you don't really have to worry about arm strength as much because you're in a dome 10 times out of the year. Even Detroit looking to move on from Matt Stafford. You get those dome teams where arm strength isn't always going to be a make or break for you because at the end of the day, there's no wind. There's nothing really stopping you from really zipping the ball in there.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought too. Like you said, I mean, I don't think he's getting out of the top 10, but I could see the Jaguars potentially passing up on him.
Well, here's the thing. I agree. He's not gonna get out of the top 5. And that really depends. Like Jacksonville could win another game or two. And you look at the rest of these teams, the Cowboys could be interesting. We were just talking about a Dak Prescott comparison.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
The Cowboys get the number 2 or 3 pick, and they're looking at Justin Fields straight to the face. Why not draft him and let another team go pay Dak Prescott $100 million coming off
and
massive.
Right now the Cowboys are at number 5. So the people in front of them, you got Joe Burrow and you got Justin Herbert. They're not taking quarterbacks. So all you need is really one person to pass up. And to be honest, I think that would be a really good fit, like you said. And I think it's something that they would do.
I agree. All right, we're going to move on. Let's talk about Trey Lance because he's my next guy. Dude, listen, I get excited talking about Trevor Lawrence. I watch Trey Lance, man. This dude jumps off the screen for me. This is a guy that you could plug into any offense. Granted, hasn't played a lot. I think he's only had a year as a starter, which is, for me, like, okay, sit him for a year. Give him the Patrick Mahomes treatment, and I think you'll get the Patrick Mahomes return. That's how highly I think of this guy. Granted, he plays for North Dakota State, not Texas Tech. The talent that he plays against isn't all that great, but based on what I see, you get a guy who's going to give you at least, progression. First read, second read, third read. Okay. I've saw that enough in his tape to realize that that can translate. His arm strength is like, he might be right up there with Trevor Lawrence, dude. Like, I'm not kidding. His deep ball is beautiful. He's a great decision maker. We were talking about the deep ball going over the receiver's head and actually being able to lead the guy downfield. Dude, Trey Lance can do that. Let's not forget that he likes to run the football and he's a very good athlete. He trucks people. Very seldomly turns over the ball. And I think if you get him, if you put him with a really creative offensive mind, like an Andy Reid type, I'm thinking about Carolina and Joe Brady and that offensive coordinator. Like, Teddy Bridgewater is cool, but you got speed. You've got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and you plug Trey Lance in there, you've got weapons. You've got Christian McCaffrey. Guys who are going to make plays for you, but you can make these throws. Like, the zip is there. The velocity is there. I think he's accurate, especially throwing the deep ball. Is he perfect? No. But I say, like, 90% of the time, he's dead accurate. Do I think he can start from day one? No, because he hasn't played enough football. But the potential jumps off the screen. And for me, it's just so obvious, dude. What do you think?
I love it. I knew you loved Trey Lance, so I was expecting a little bit more disputes here. Now, Carolina Panthers, I think you said that perfectly. That fit is unbelievable, and I think he would have an awesome career there. Now, a couple of things I do want to kind of disagree with just right off the bat. Yeah. I think he's got great arm strength. My comparison to him was actually Josh Allen. The guy's 6'4", 227. Okay. Trey Lance is. He can seriously move. Like you said, he can run. He's got elite arm strength. I actually found that he did sail a lot of these deep balls. And when I say sail, I just mean overthrow, really is just the correct term, where he had the guys had a couple steps. Something I want to shut down as well is playing against like elite competition. I get it. Like it is different, but you also have to take into account he's playing with less elite players as well. And the reason I bring that up is because the game that I kind of put all my focus onto for Trey Lance was the Central Arkansas game, which is his only game that he played this year.
Yeah.
It was a good game for him because it was definitely competition. He had to work a little bit more.
Right.
His blockers were consistently getting beaten. One thing that I absolutely loved about him through the entire game and everything I've seen about him, this guy's tough as nails.
100%.
Like he is. He's an absolute savage. Every play, the way he runs, the way he throws, his competitiveness, it's all there. He really does have it all. He has elite mobility. He goes through his progressions, which you love to see. This is the same school that Carson Wentz went to, mind you, right?
He's going to be way better than Carson Wentz.
He's going to be way better than Carson Wentz. And let's not take away, like, yes, Carson Wentz isn't having a great season this year, but he's been like MVP type of seasons in the past. Like, this guy
100%.
can actually play. Trey Lance, 48 touchdowns and 0 interceptions last year. Zero interceptions.
And you can't attribute all of that to being wide open guys. Like, if you put Trey Lance at Ohio State, that man's throwing 60 to 70 touchdowns.
That's a lot, but I see what you're saying, and I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. I think he would do better at Ohio State, but for my defense purposes, I still can't give him that over Justin Fields because I haven't seen it, and I would need to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I love the guy. I mean, he takes care of the football. He has everything you want to work with. I mean, Josh Allen didn't have good numbers. He really was they were only wanting to look at him because of his size, his speed, his arm strength, the things that you can work with as an NFL coach. And Trey Lance has all the exact same things.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good comparison. And listen, we've seen Josh Allen year after year after year become a better quarterback and a better passer. And the man, over time, the Bills stacked him with some talent. Last year was Cole Beasley and some speed guys. This year it's Stephon Diggs, an offensive line, and, Dawson Knox, the tight end, who's pretty good. Like, he's a good tight end. He finds ways to score in the red zone, man. And, like, I look at Trey Lance, man, and he's going to be like the dark horse. Is he going to be undervalued and underdrafted to a team that's actually going to put him in a position to be an MVP? Or is he going to be a guy who's going to be drafted? You could argue top 10, but I think some NFL teams are going to fall in love with some of the wrong guys and overdraft a couple of guys, i.e. Zach Wilson, i.e. Mac Jones or Kyle Trask. Dude, listen to me. Like, the second best quarterbacks, in terms of like ceiling to floor, like it's Trey Lance easy.
I actually agree with that statement. I think right now he has the highest ceiling out of all the quarterbacks. Throw in Trevor Lawrence as well, but he also does have the lowest floor. He's the biggest risk in the draft for sure, in my opinion.
Now, listen, if you got 2 solid years of the same tape from Trey Lance instead of just the one season he played last year, we're having a totally different conversation because he's started enough games and performed well enough consistently to prove to you that this guy could arguably be the number 1 overall pick. Now, that's why I think he needs to sit a year, because he's definitely not a finished product, but there's enough flashes and enough potential there for a team to definitely take a swing on him in the top 10 and definitely, turn him into the guy that I expect him to be.
If the Panthers and Matt Rule don't take him, I'm going to be so mad. You got me all over. That's such a perfect. I love that.
It's a great.
That marriage
fit.
is just perfect. Yeah.
Even you put him in like a Kyle Shanahan offense where it's a little bit more run heavy, but you give him some speed demons on the outside and that play action game and George Kittle, dude. Oh my God! Like, Jimmy G can kiss his career goodbye.
I think he's kissing his career goodbye no matter what after this draft, but we'll get to that.
All right, Tom. We kind of got our top 3 in, at least. Who'd you have at number 3? Because it wasn't Trey Lance when we first started this conversation.
It was not. It was Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask. All right, Tom. I'll give you the floor. Let's hear it with Kyle Trask.
I love it. So Kyle Trask is, again, I had said my rankings already, but he's probably my favorite quarterback in the draft. It's your Trey Lance, if you will. Okay. Ideal frame, size, everything. He's 6'5", 240. He's tough as nails, and the guy can move. He's mobile as well. He's not elite speed like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, but he's enough to scramble outside of the pocket, keep plays alive, and he's big enough to kind of like Big Ben, not getting taken down when linemen are getting arm tackles on him. That's the start, and I love those intangibles to begin with. But he's got great arm strength. He throws potentially the best deep ball in the country. I think the only person that you can make that argument against over is Mac Jones, and we'll get there. But I truly do believe that he's not working with stud receivers. The one thing he's working with is a stud security blanket in their tight end Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. But that's besides the point. He was hurt for 2 weeks. They won both of those games, and he played outstanding. He really does move the pocket well. He'll step up, get outside the pocket. He throws both, standing in the pocket, outside the pocket. His accuracy is there. He keeps plays alive, and he has great play action fakes, which is so important in the NFL. He takes snaps under center. These are things that like a lot of these guys don't have. I think like the biggest knock on him, he has about 1.5 years experience. He came in for Felipe Franks last year when he got hurt, and he never looked back. And Felipe Franks transferred because he realized how good this guy was.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be an absolute stud in the league, and there's a lot of teams that really, really want him, i.e. the 49ers. But
wow.
Yeah.
Some high praise for a quarterback I have a 3rd round grade on.
Oh, no.
I mean, listen, like Kyle Trask is definitely on pace to win the Heisman this year. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's probably going to be the most overdrafted quarterback in this year's class. He's actually my number 6. And my thing is, I totally disagree with you on his arm strength. I see 0 zip. I see 0 velocity. He can move the pocket a little bit, but when you put him in the pro game, it's going to be like he's just not going to look as fast, and he's not going to look as agile as we think he can be. I think he forces a lot of balls into double coverage, which I didn't see from a lot of these other guys nearly as often. I actually think that he is the product of what, to me, is a really cool offensive system over at Florida. And I also think that if Kyle Pitts doesn't exist, half those passes are interceptions. And I love Kyle Pitts too, but that'll be a conversation for another day. But, man, I'm just not seeing what you're seeing, dude.
Yeah, I could tell. I think you had good takes though, and I think like you said, I think he does do too much sometimes. When he doesn't have Kyle Pitts, you definitely see him doing a little bit too much, throwing the ball into double coverage, things like that. Yeah. I totally agree with that statement. In terms of arm strength, I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with like Justin Fields earlier. Like I think Justin Fields has really good zip on the ball, but I don't necessarily think that translates into just arm strength, because Kyle Trask, like, he can throw the ball, I'm going to assume, farther than Justin Fields, but it's more so like he throws a nice, like, a nice lob, a nice arc ball, a nice touch pass. Like it lands in there when he's throwing a deep ball. So that's why I say he throws the best deep ball in the country with the receivers he's working with. Mm-hmm. But I agree with what you're saying. He does a little too much sometimes. The 3rd round grade, way too low. But I do think he's also a system quarterback. I don't 100%. Necessarily think he's coming into any team and just, making it work. I just think that there's some fits that are just so good. Again, the 49ers, that, I mean, if they got him on their team, I think they would just be going back to the Super Bowl again. So it's like they're that scary.
Wow. I mean, yeah. I don't know, man. I just don't see the zip on the ball. Like you look at some of the 5-yard passes that he throws, and to me, I'm like, it took so long for the ball to just get to the receiver's hands. He does like to underthrow some things. And listen, like he's winning games and he's producing. So I think maybe over time, I just need a little bit more time to dissect his game and, maybe rewatch a few tapes. But from what I've seen, dude, like, listen, you want me to give a pro comparison? Because I will, and you're not going to remember the name.
Go, give me one. Give it to me.
Do you remember Christian Ponder?
Absolutely, I remember Christian Ponder. He was on the Vikings. Yeah, I know Christian Ponder.
Oh my God. And I don't know
I think
why.
that's his. See, here's the thing. I think that again. I think that's his floor. I think like the thing is with all like I think quarterbacks is the hardest position to grade. So much
True.
of it goes into intangibles and their arm strength, their mobility, things like that. But all in all, I think so much of what makes a good quarterback good is that it factor. You look at all these trash quarterbacks like Christian Ponder, all the guys. Let's say who's the guy that you like that went to the Dolphins? UCLA
So
quarterback.
Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen.
Okay.
That guy has no personality. He doesn't have the it factor. He has no swagger. And I think that like that alone can make a quarterback good, that competitiveness, that will to win. And I think that Kyle Trask has those to go together with the fact that he can do these pro style stuff already. I think that's why he's going to be successful. I don't think he has nearly the highest ceiling. I think he probably has an average ceiling, but like his floor is very low in my opinion.
Right, but
I mean, his floor is not low. Sorry, his floor is not low. So he's very much in the middle. That's why I have him at 3 because I think that he really can. He's going to make a team good in the right system, but he's not going to be anything like a Hall of Famer or anything like that.
But that's what raises a question, though. We're talking about this guy potentially being drafted in the first round. And quite frankly, if that's the highest we think of this guy, he's going to be average at best and he's going to make a decent team good depending on the fit. I'm not touching that guy in the first round of the draft, man. I'm just not. Like, there's nothing that jumps off the screen that says this kid is so special. Granted, intangibles are there. You can still draft a guy with intangibles with, average talent in the second round or even the top of the third round. Russell Wilson was a guy I was high on, and nobody else really was until he got to the league. And look at him now. Like, he was probably, you look at RG3 and then Andrew Luck, and then you got Russell Wilson, who was way underdrafted.
Russell Wilson, first of all, did not have the arm talent. He is pretty much the exact same arm talent as Kyle Trask coming out.
I totally disagree with you on that.
They both throw great deep balls, and that's really was their big thing. Russell Wilson's thing was he kept the play alive, and he would make things happen. He's developed so much more. But, like, I think that Kyle Trask can do similar things to that. Maybe not at as high as of a level, but I mean, I think with the 49ers he could. I mean, like I said, it's all speculation.
It is all speculation, 100%. And listen, you're talking to a kid right now who thought Mitch Trubisky was better than Mahomes and Deshaun Watson coming out. So I was way off on Trubisky. I was way off on Josh Rosen. And again, I still don't think Rosen got a fair shake.
I loved Rosen as well. Rosen.
He was doomed from the start, going to 2 really crappy franchises in a row.
But he's not a leader. He doesn't have that competitive mindset.
Listen, at the end of the day, like to me, like the quarterback skill set was there, but listen, it's like you said, he didn't really have the intangibles to go in there and like make himself better, and ultimately that's why he's bust. All right, we've got a couple more guys to talk about here. Let's talk about Mac Jones, and then we'll talk about Zach Wilson. What do you like about Mac Jones, and what do you dislike?
So Mac Jones is very traditional pocket passer when you look at him. He also throws a very good deep ball. I really have him and Kyle Trask is the best, potentially him, but my only really disagreement with that is he's literally working with the best deep ball receivers in college football history, potentially all on the same team. It's insane. But yeah, he works really, really good in the pocket. He throws the ball well outside the numbers. I noticed like when he's throwing into the middle of the field,
right,
he doesn't have the zip on the ball like we talked about. He can throw the ball down the field. He has the arm strength, but not necessarily the zip. He does go through his progressions. He's an Alabama quarterback, so he's a game manager just right off the bat. Like those guys know how to manage a game, how to make their reads. Most of the time, the knock on Alabama quarterbacks is they're not actually that talented. And I do think Mac Jones is. I had him as my 6th quarterback. I just don't think he has the elite arm strength, the zip, that we're looking for to be able to throw in between the numbers, in between the hashes. And he's really not that mobile.
Yeah.
He does work in the pocket decent, but he's not keeping the play alive for you.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Not a lot to disagree on when it comes to Mac Jones. I think his deep ball is a little bit overrated, and from what you're telling me, I do very much think he's a product of Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and some of the other playmakers he has. Not very mobile. He's a prototypical pocket passer. I also hate how long his windup is. Did you notice that?
I noticed that as well. I was looking to see if he'd get rid of it quickly. The man throws like a baseball.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate. I think that's the ultimate factor. Is that like you got a Blake Bortles windup, and the ball just doesn't matter how strong your arm is. The ball takes too long to come out, and you already have average arm strength to begin with. That's another guy I think who could get overdrafted in the first round. I do have a late second round, early third round grade on him. I think if you protect him and you put him in a situation where literally everything works, literally everything, he can be pretty good. But again, like his ceiling is average, and his floor. Listen, he could phase out of the game in 3 years in my eyes. And again, it goes back to that Ohio State bias, kind of like the Alabama bias when it comes to quarterbacks. Listen, I like Mac Jones. He's not a first-round quarterback in my eyes, and I don't even think he should be drafted in the second round, because if I'm a GM of any team and I'm looking at a guy like that and thinking anywhere remotely close to what you and I are saying right now, then I'm not touching him in the first round. And again, it takes one team to fall in love with his intangibles. But ultimately, like if you're physically just like not gifted, sometimes you can't, you're only so limited. And, I know nothing about Mac Jones. I haven't seen his interviews. I know nothing about what he's like as a person. I'm basically solely going off him as a player.
That's what we're doing for all of these.
100%.
We'll never interview these guys.
Never, 100%. But I do enjoy, I think he makes his receivers look good because he's just not as good. Does that make sense? I think the way he throws the ball puts receivers in positions to make plays look a little bit harder than they have to sometimes. And I think that's why we like Devontae Smith so much. I think that's why we like Jalen Waddle so much. Granted, they're talented players, but they're putting on a show because Mac Jones sometimes just can't get the ball where it needs to be. He just knows where to go with it, if that makes sense. It's not like pinpoint accuracy. But I think at best, he's a backup in the league, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think he's a backup in the league unless he goes to, a win now team. And like you said, very late second, early third. I think that's probably the best place to put him. One thing I will disagree with just a little bit is I get what you're saying about the receivers kind of making him look good or making him look bad kind of because of the catches they have to make. But his deep ball really, really is very good. He puts it in a really nice location in the back shoulders most of the time, especially when it's outside the numbers. But again, Devonta Smith's having, 4 steps on the corner that's behind him. Like, right. You need to hit that guy every time. And I just don't think he throws the ball that well besides those deep balls. I agree with you completely. Everything you said was perfect.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about Zach Wilson, who I'm actually relatively high on. And my problem with Zach Wilson is he wears number 1, right? And people are comparing this guy to Kyler Murray. And I'm like, can we slow down? This dude is nowhere near the athlete that Kyler Murray is. Like, let's be honest. What I do like about Zach Wilson, granted, he's another guy kind of like Trey Lance who isn't playing against like elite level talent by any means, but he throws well on the move. I think he's accurate. I love his quick release. More often than not, he's a quick rhythm passer, but you can see that sometimes he does put in his progressions. And I think he's coming out a year too early, I think that's kind of my thing. I think if he gave it another year and really refined his game in college, I could see him being a top 3 or top 5 pick in the 2022 draft. He's a little undersized for my liking, but the dude definitely makes plays. He's very agile. I think he's a little too quick to run outside of the pocket sometimes. He can definitely throw on the move. I think he's dead accurate when he knows where he wants to go with the ball. And I think with him, there's a lot to work with, kind of like a Baker Mayfield type, where like with good playmakers around him and, you know, a solid system in place where you don't have to rely on him too much, I think he can be a very effective quarterback. I do. I like his arm strength. I like his accuracy. But overall, I just think he's another guy who kind of needs to be in the right system. And I think he's definitely going to need a few years to get acclimated to the speed of the pro game.
Yeah, I think that's extremely good takes. I mean, to start off, I mean, 6'3" is his height. He's 209, so height's fine. It's a little too his frame's not big enough, you know.
Right.
He actually has had injury problems in the past as well, and I think that's something that you need to kind of keep in mind. He doesn't slide much. He's not worried about taking hits. Again, that's something they'll get on him real quick in the NFL about, but it kind of ties into him just doing a little too much, in my opinion. Yeah. I had him actually compared to Johnny Manziel. I thought it was like perfect.
Wow.
Yeah,
I love that.
So
actually,
he has really, really good accuracy. He's got great agility. He's fast enough to really, outrun people. But I agree. I think he gets out of the pocket just a little too quick. And he needs to kind of just stick in there sometimes a little bit more. But his ball is really nice. He has that that flick. That those people just flick it. Like Mahomes does it, Aaron Rodgers does it. They just flick it out there, and you don't know how they're even getting the ball out that quick. But that just ties into his, how quick his release is. Very, very accurate. Arm strength's not entirely there, and he does have relatively weak competition for a D1 school.
Yeah,
they played Coastal Carolina 2 weeks ago, and they actually lost that game. And in my opinion, he got exposed. He wasn't anticipating receivers, which he doesn't most of the time. He's letting them break, turn around, sit in their window, and then he's hitting them. And that doesn't work in the pros. Those guys aren't going to, be sitting there for long. That's going to get picked off almost every time. But yeah, against Coastal, it was hard to watch. They, most of their offense actually came from trick plays. And I don't want to see that against, Coastal's undefeated. They're legit this year. I don't want to take anything from them, but they're not, a high-powered team. And for someone like him, you don't want to see your quarterback having to score through, flea flickers and reverse passes. Like it's not what you want to see. So I'm actually, like I said, I'm not that high on him. I had him as my 5th out of the 6. But he can win games. He can definitely go in the right system and make a team happy if he can stay healthy. But I think his health issues, and I think he's a pretty big risk, to be honest with you. If you ask me.
I agree, and I think that comes back to him like maybe coming out a year too early. I think if he was able to really refine some things in his game and work on some of those, work on, overall accuracy and decision making as a whole, we might be talking about him right now as a potential like mid-first round pick to a top quarterback in 2022. I just think this isn't the year. I think the class is a little too loaded, and I think his draft stock could definitely falter just because there's so much better talent around him and high-profile guys. So that's kind of my take. But I think we covered every quarterback. Am I right?
Yeah, we covered the top 6 and in a good class.
It's a really good class overall. A lot of really good takes on both sides. It's very exciting, man. I love talking quarterbacks. I love talking football with you, so I'm looking forward to next week. And guys, that's going to actually do it for us. Thanks for watching. Again, this is Umbros this is Jets Talk with Umbro and Tom O. Still getting the title right. Still new here. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. You guys already know what to do. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks,
Go
guys.
Jets.